let me see. Let me go back to my Twitch chat and see how things are looking. Yeah, it actually has some viewers hang around, so that's nice. Let's mute this tab because you don't want to hear that junk. It looks like things are working okay. I'm back. Apparently my machine needed to restart and I also wanted to update, which was really nerve-wracking, but apparently I came back and I'm still alive. I'll just quickly recap kind of what I've been talking about. So today's August. I did this the first time. Today's September. September 4th, 2016. I'm Joshua. I'm working on a game called Delver. This is Delver here. It's a procedural first-person roguelike. I stream every Sunday. This is the 8th such Sunday I've streamed, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to look at what I've done in the last week. Actually look at what the Delver team has done. Uh, just do a git log, one line. I don't want to show too much info because it's hard to parse. There's a lot of stuff on there. Since equals last week, which is nice. You can do relative time. So these are the things we've done since the last stream. So we're working on this crusher trap, adding temple rooms, troubleshooting issues with the boss fight area, responding to a user complaint about this issue, so we're trying to fix it. Then Chad did some work on making levels, and he's also fixing some issues around the crusher trap that I had, and he's improving the lighting in the temple area. It was about 6 times slower for some odd reason. I think it was mostly just how we were calculating the lighting, so he's kind of tweaked that a little bit. So hopefully that is more performant because right now most levels load in a couple seconds, and if this one loads in about 10 to 12, that just feels bad. And also on our mobile platforms, I want to make sure that it still performs just fine. So I just wanted to take a look at the temple trap, the ceiling crusher trap, because Chad made some changes and I haven't looked at them yet. So let's look at them together. And right now I'm just blocking out just a little test room, and I'm going to place this. It's called temple crusher trap. There we go. And if I hit play mode, things work like they should. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, it looks like he did a few things. Yeah, very nice. So if I right now this is a group, I can ungroup it and we can kind of look at each entity by itself. This is actually two separate entities. This one is just a screen shake entity. Basically, it will shake the screen whenever it gets triggered. So it's kind of a hack. I made it the trigger type is player touch, and then I put it inside the crusher so the player can't ever touch it. Also, the trigger volume of this is really tiny, so you can't actually touch it, and the crusher actually occludes it entirely. But that's just a little quirk of how the screen shake trigger works. Generally, screen shake triggers are like an area you walk through, and then we can trigger a screen shake for like effect. But this is something I want to have the screen shake every time this crusher hits the floor. And previously, the way the movers worked is it would fire either when it started or it would fire at the top and the bottom of the movement. So let's see what he tweaked here. So yeah, he changed the interpolation mode to sign out. I had it linear, and I made the motion linear, mostly because of the way the trigger was being handled. The way it would ease, it wouldn't trigger until the movement hit 0, and because of like floating precision, it would visually look like it had stopped moving, and then it would shake. So that's why I made it linear, is just to sync up the shaking with the actual motion of the mover. And then it looks like, yep, we got the sound hooked up, which is cool. And then, yeah, so the trigger at start and triggers when done. So it looks like he made the trigger when done fire only when it, let's just look at the new behavior and see how that works. So I think with this is a trigger when done, so it goes up and down, and that counts as done, and it keeps doing that. And then if I move this to triggers on start, let's see what that behavior looks like. Okay, so that is the opposite. So it does it when it hits the far side of the mover target. So if you want to have, which is cool because if you want, because I could have trigger something at the top of the motion and then trigger something else at the bottom of the motion. Like if I would love to have like a little particle puff when it hits the bottom, but I couldn't do that before because it would trigger both the top and the bottom. It looks like we have some folks talking in chat. Um, Cryo21 says hi. Hello, Cryo21. I believe this is not your first stream, so thank you for stopping by and coming back. I appreciate that. Smelkovich says, how did the idea of streaming game development come to me? A couple of ways. So I do have several buddies who also do game development, and I think a couple of them stream, which is really cool. But for me particularly, um, the last update to Delver has been actually a year ago now. It was updated last September, and what happened is last year, my wife and I, well, she got pregnant, and then early this year we had my son. And just with the way things were, this Delver is my side project. It's not my full-time job. And back while my wife was pregnant, I was working at Microsoft as a software engineer, and it was very challenging. Um, I liked working there. It's just it was really challenging a day job and supporting my wife, and I had to cut something out. So unfortunately, Delaware development quieted for a year, and I didn't tell the community about that, and I feel bad. I mean, my family does come first, but um, I just didn't let anybody know what was up, and they just assumed that we had completely abandoned the project. So I began streaming, I guess, 8 Sundays ago now, as a way to talk to the community, to let them know where we are with development. I kind of talk about where I am at personally, just because I guess since I'm the primary content maker, the um, I'm kind of the main reason why things are going slow. So I just want to talk to you so you guys, you know where I'm at. I haven't given up on the project. I still am very passionate about it. I love this project. But I want to talk to you. I want to get your feedback. Um, yeah, it's very important to me. So that's the primary reason why I started developing. It also was really helpful to set aside, part of my Sunday to work every week. It's nice having that consistency because right now I'm a stay-at-home father, and my primary, I guess, responsibility is raising my son. And like in the evenings when he's asleep, I try to work on Delver, but it's kind of hit or miss. But my wife and I have, we've kind of agreed that we set aside part of our Sunday for me to work, which is really cool. Um, Benjamin Landon says, hello, hello, Benjamin. Thank you for stopping by. Schmucko says, that's pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah, the Delver community is they're so good. Like I'm just so thankful that they support us and that I'm actually able to do this. I'm not making a living. My wife supports us financially, but I'm just glad that I have an opportunity to really put as much effort as I can into this. Um, OI Clam Down says, hey Joshua, chat. How's it going? Yeah, thanks. I think OI Clam Down, I think you've also been by previous streams as well, so thank you for coming back. And Schmalkovich says he adores this game. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. Just, we are working hard to make this game as good of a game as we can. And I also kind of take on the role of reading through a lot of the community stuff, primarily on the Steam forums. I try to respond to a lot of it, but I don't respond to everything. It doesn't mean I don't read everything, um, but I just within reason. Like I have this, anytime that I'm communicating and working with communities, this time I'm not actually working on Delver. Um, I can share this with you guys since you guys are really interested. we actually are planning on releasing the next update this month, which I'm really excited about. Um, yeah, we've started. I've been doing a little bit of project management, trying to create milestones for us, and then kind of lumping things into that milestone, what we want to get accomplished. And if everything goes well, fingers crossed, hopefully, we will release next Saturday, which it may slip. So I apologize if I'm lying to you, but we're really pushing hard to have this update pushed out by next Saturday. It will include all this new cool temple content and a lot of bug fixes that have been found and reported by you guys, the community. Okay, enough of administrative stuff. Hopefully, I'm not boring you. Let's make beautiful stuff. So what's cool about this? There's a lot of cool things, but what I was kind of playing around with um, is you can do something like this. So um, so the move time is 1.5, and let's say it's yeah. Chad also added some start weight and end weight, so that's kind of cool. Looks like he added point. Yeah, because it'll stop at the top a little bit, and then it'll. Yeah, there we go. That's actually I goofed that up. So let me just delete this and add it back. So um, what I think the cool thing you can do with stuff like this is I add a crusher trap, and then I could do something like this. Okay, so make sure these are properly spaced out. Okay, and then I'm gonna ungroup these. And then what I can do is I could say, because right now, if I hit play, they're all going to start immediately, and they're all going to be in sync, which can be cool. Like if you wanted to have like there's nothing wrong with this. But what's interesting is um, I could do something like let's say triggers at start, and I'll say crusher underscore one. Then here I can call this guy crusher underscore one, and then I could change starts immediately to on trigger. And then similarly at start, this will trigger crusher underscore two, and then I'll rename this to crusher underscore two, and then it also starts on trigger, but it triggers crusher underscore three, and I'll make this one crusher three, crusher underscore three. It is also on trigger, and um, that should work. Let's see what that looks like. We should hopefully this works how I think it's going to work. Okay, it did not. I think the trigger at start is the issue. So let me do this and then replace it like that. So I think I need to do the triggers when done. Uh, okay, that's fine. So this triggers crusher one. So this also needs to be crusher one. Something about Delver is IDs aren't necessarily unique. So that's how you can have a trigger uh, actually activate multiple things at once, is if they all share the same ID, and that's totally fine. So maybe this will behave like I want. Yeah, so it goes up, and it comes down, and it triggers the next one. So not quite what I had in mind, but it is interesting. And eventually, so so if I were to play around with this more, you can create these interesting patterns. And what I want to do is basically I want to let me show you. So if I go look at these are the actual rooms that the generator uses. So if you look at these rooms, um, this is not a great example, but a lot of them have a, a 4x4 section in the middle. Um, like this one also is not a super great example, but they have there's generally a 4x4 section in the middle of the room. And what I want to do is I want to create, say, 3 different versions of the crusher trap that are on this 4x4 grid. And then what I can do is I can make each one of those a prefab, and then I can make a containing prefab that randomly picks one. So what we get is we get not the same trap every time, which hopefully will add some interest to the temple. I'm going to try to vary up the temple a little bit in terms of gameplay. Like there will be some monster rooms, but there will also be some trap rooms. So I think that's going to be how I'm going to try that. And so today I'm going to do some prototyping stuff. I'm going to kind of verify if our prefab system is as powerful as I hope it is. I think it is. And I'll try to kind of talk about this concept that I have in my brain. Um, I don't really know of like an official canonical word for it. Um, I know I've spoke to some of the developers over at Harebrained Schemes about Necropolis, and they call the idea that I'm talking about bread boxes, which is it's a word for it. It's a weird word. I'm thinking of calling it like sets and set pieces. Um, but I'll start like making these things, and then we'll see if they make sense. Um, so let's just actually, let me look and see. Sometimes what we like to do is we make these little test levels where we kind of prototype and build all these things. And these actually ship with Delver. If you look into the assets folder, levels, test, you should see all these test things. Okay, so it looks like beer, cold, collision, entity. So like these are where like also when we have like user reported issues around like collision and other things, we create little rooms to exercise those bugs so we can assure they're fixed. But it looks like we don't have one yet, so let's just make a new one. File, new. The default is 17 by 17. This is the default room size for Delver. This is not negotiable right now, so right now every Delver room is 17 by 17. I can make it larger though, and maybe since this is a prototyping room, that would be good. Let's just make it 32 by 32, since power sources sound nice to me. So we have this big 32 by 32 room, which is not actually going to be used in Delver. This is only for us to kind of prototype stuff with. So I'm just going to carve out a space right here for us to work in. And then let's get going. Also, let me save this real quick too. So file, save as, and I'm going to save it not in the actual generator stuff, but in this levels folder, this test levels folder, and we're going to call this. What's a good name for this? Sets and set pieces, because that's what I told you to call it. Okay, so we have that saved. So the idea is, like right now, for example, I'll show you kind of how this is going to work. If you look at this prefab, for the temple area, I have what's called a temple small head. And actually, let me show you. If you look at it without the prefab, if we just look at how it's defined, it is it's a mesh, but if you look, I mean, it's kind of hard to see. If you look carefully, there are actually 2 meshes here. There's small head 1 and small head 0. And what that means is on the fly, Delver will pick between the 2 meshes to show it to you. So if I hit play, you see this one changed. And if I hit escape, it's not the same one. So every time I hit play, it will randomly choose. So there's a 50% chance it will be one head or the other. And I want to use this with prefabs to try to build this system. Okay, looking over at chat, Soulfoam says, "Oh, I'm the guy that made Delver. Quite awesome to see such a fellow needs yourself streaming." Yeah, so I mentioned on the stream before I had to update my machine that there are two of us that are the main core of Delver. It's myself. I'm Joshua, and the other guy is Chad. Um, I do the majority of the art and the levels and all the content that goes in there. Basically everything you can see, I'm kind of in charge of or have created one way or another. And then Chad is handling all the programming, a lot of the game design, and he also handles a lot of the business. Um, so that's kind of the majority of the work is done by us two, and then the rest of it we contract out to different folks. But yeah, so it's just a two-man team. But yeah, thanks for stopping by the stream. McKilo23 says hello. Hello, McKilo. I think you've also stopped by before, so thank you for coming back. Um, Foam says, any reason you're not supporting above 17 by 17? Right now, no. It's just hard coded. I would love to have areas larger than that. Um, but up until now, we've always built 17 by 17 rooms, and that's just kind of the way it's worked. But yeah, no, it would be nice as an enhancement. But right now, I don't think it's absolutely critical, but it would be cool. Dr. Kegel says, if I start a generator, does it fill the 32 by 32, or does it create a new map? No, I think what he's asking is if I it's a good question. So if you don't know, Delver is built out of a bunch of we piece a bunch of rooms together to make a level, and a lot of these rooms are hand built, but also now the computer can create these rooms. So if you go edit, generate room, um, yeah. So the room generator also assumes that it's a 17 by 17. So it just kind of plopped it down over here. In the this must be the top 17 by 17 part of this map. Um, so that's what that does. Um, so Soulfoam says, wow, the level sizes are hard coded with the complex level editor that's been made. Very surprising. Um, some of the levels that aren't procedurally generated can just be a handmade level of arbitrary size. Like the boss fight, for example, is like this. The interstitial areas are also that, like for example, the start area in Delver also is just a handmade level of fixed size. Again, I would like to expose. It would be nice to have the room size variable and also the dungeon floor size variable. But right now, that's just not a high priority. It would be a nice to have, but not an absolutely must have. Okay. Um, so what I want is to kind of do a little exercise of what this prefab thing might look like. So did I lose my? Yeah, I lost my. So when building prefabs, it's nice to build them at 0, 0. I'm not sure if it's required, but it certainly helps. But I'm thinking when my map size is bigger than 17 by 17, I think it's hard for me to see the actual. We draw here. Let me show you. No. So we have these little axes that run down the center that indicate the X and Y axis, and I think because I chose an even number of tiles that they're actually being overdrawn by the grid. But let's do something real quick. Let's just do. Let me fire up Blender real quick because Blender is the 3D modeling package that I use to do all of the assets in Delver. And yeah, let's open up the props file. So what I want to do is I just want to make just like a basic cube and just try to illustrate this idea in my head. So I will do add a cube. Um, Scale. Nope, nope. Oh no. So I'm going to scale except on the z-axis by 0.5. So this should give us a 1 by 1 cube, which is cool. Let me go A, mark seams, U, unwrap. Okay. I was gonna do a quick and dirty unwrap. It's not gonna be great, but it'll work. One, so I'm just what I'm doing is I'm going to pile up all the faces on top of each other and then just put it on a texture that tiles nicely. So okay, so let's move these. Just quickly going to flip that over so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to put it up here and scale this down. And then I'm just going to throw it on. This happens to be the top of the Temple Crusher trap, but it is just a tileable texture, so that serves our purposes pretty well. Just get it close. And then in Blender, you can just do a snap selection, which will snap the pixels it will snap the vertexes to the pixels on the texture, which is super handy to make nice pixel perfect textures. So we have this little block, cool. So it is kind of a throwaway like thing. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. So I'm just going to export it out. It's a file. Export OBJ is the format that Delver uses. I'm just going to put it in my meshes. I'm going to call this test underscore cube. Some export settings that are important to remember in Delver. Or we're exporting OBJ files for Delver. Do selection only, otherwise Blender will export your whole scene, which is probably not what you want. It might be, but since I have all of my props in a single file, I use selection only. And then let's see, I'm not using modifiers, so I don't care. I don't write materials. We will set this in the Delver editor. The big one is triangulate faces. If you don't set this, all of your faces will only be a single triangle, and quads are two triangles, so your mesh will look broken. Leaving the scale at 1 is correct because the scale of 1 in Blender corresponds to a scale of 1 in Delver, so that's really handy. So this test cube export. Cool. And that should be all we need of Blender. Now let's go back into the Delver editor. I think he said Chad told me that if you go into play mode, it should refresh your assets. So let's see if that's true. So again, create a little test room, and then I'm going to place an entity, a miscellaneous mesh, and then I'm going to do something like I always do like great, because that's just a very basic mesh. I can select it, and then up here in the properties panel, I can just say test underscore cube. There we go. And that, yeah, textures, temple underscore meshes. There we go. So that is our test cube, which is fine. I also want to do something like the collision should be 0.5, 0.5, and 1. That will give us a good collision box for this mesh. So, yep, that's working. Great. Okay. So now what I want to do is you can select this, and I can right-click on it and say to JSON. So for those of you who don't know, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is just a way of describing all the properties for a given object. So this just takes the properties over here in this properties panel on the right, and it will spit it out in a format that Delver can understand. Let me see. Looking over chat, there's been lots of Soulfoam says, will the other team member that you mentioned, Chad, be streaming as well? It would be super cool if you dual streamed and worked on art and code at the same time. So Chad does not stream. I don't know, streaming is hard. Streaming is like, a lot of times it's hard to both work and talk at the same time. Says the guy not working, drinking coffee and talking. But streaming is hard. So it's taken me a while to even be semi-productive at it. But no, I know Chad sometimes stops by and chats with folks, but he typically he has a full-time job as a senior software engineer for a company in San Francisco. So he's very busy. So he usually takes his Sundays to actually be a human and go like hike and just not work because I know he does work quite a lot. Oh, Tony. Oh, hey, Tony Jubu. So I recently met Tony at a developer conference. He's a really cool guy. He is working on a JRPG actually, which is not procedural and not a roguelike at all. But it sounds like he's working on a really cool JRPG, and we actually hit it off pretty well. So Tony's a he's a rad guy. Um, yeah, actually, Tony does stream his development. So if you're interested in watching a programmer make a JRPG, I would suggest checking out Tony. Soulfoam says that he does everything for his game and 90% of his streams are coding, but it's paying his bills, so that's cool. Yeah, no, I think streaming development is cool because it allows folks to know what actually goes into a game, and hopefully, for some people that just educates them. There's a lot of effort that goes into it, and for some people, maybe that kind of flips a switch in their head that makes them realize that you can do this. You just have to be kind of stubborn and persistent and kind of not let go. I think a lot of us who do make games have this. I think we're very passionate and we don't give up on things. So yeah, hopefully these more developers stream and it's inspiring to people. Okay, so it looks like they're chatting about development and streaming, which is cool, and I will continue to work. So I have these properties for this object, so I'm going to copy those. And what I want to do is just for sake of argument, I'm going to create a prefab out of this. So um, in the Delver assets folder, there is a data folder, and inside that is an entities.dat, which is just a large JSON file that describes all the entities that exist in Delver. Um, excuse me. So we're just going to make a new one called, I don't know, test or something, or maybe sets. I'm not sure. So these look like. So the thing is with JSON, you do have to be careful how you format it because if you don't format it correctly, you'll break everything, and then no entities will load, and then you're having a bad day when no entities load. Um, so they're kind of organized into uh, groups. I wish that maybe I need to change what type of file this thinks it is because I thought IntelliJ is called code folding. Maybe not because I need to figure out basically what's on this level of indentation. That's the one I want. So I'm keeping my cursor here, trying to figure out where I can create this new group. And groups really aren't terribly important except for in the editor. The groups appear on the right click menu. So that's how you kind of find your thing. So I think it's right here. Right there, I believe, is where I need to put it. And then let me quickly scroll up and see. I think these are just it is just a dictionary or an associative array or whatever you want to call it. Let me just verify that. So like these areas. So it says areas. It has a key, which is just the name of it, and then it's just a list of objects. So I'm going to call this uh, set pieces. I before E, except for C. Okay. And this set piece is going to be, this is the first one we're making. Um, Just going to quickly kind of pretty this up a little bit. So this one is going to be called test cube. This actually, we don't need this rotation because it can just be no rotation, that's fine. Um, and this looks correct. So I picked up that it's a mesh. Mesh has a correct mesh file. It's solid. It has a texture file that is correct, and it has a collision that we want. Um, okay, let's save this and then load up the editor and see if I got things right. So if I just right click here, oh, okay. So what that did is it tried to load up the it tried to load the JSON for this, and I made a mistake, so it just died. So let me fix this. So this needs to live somewhere else, is what it's telling me. Maybe I got my indentation incorrect. Maybe it ought to live there. Okay, let's try that. And again, we'll know as soon as we right click if it's actually formatted correctly or not. There we go. So now, if you look, we have this set pieces group, or whatever you want to call it, and then we have our test cube, which we can place. So now we have a prefab. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building up these kind of logical prefabs. So for example, let's make like if I made this half the size, so scale is 0.5, and um, I kind of have, if I have all these, this should be a small cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this out. I'm going to copy this object, and I'm going to make a new one. So paste it, clean that up. I'm going to call this uh, small test cube, and then I'm just going to put in the dimensions that I know it needs to be. Same model, same texture. Um, so now when I launch the editor um, in our set pieces, we should have a test cube, which is cool, and we have a um, small test cube, which did not save the. Oh, I only updated the collision. I actually didn't change the scale because that property. Uh, because the so if you notice here, there's clash, mesh file, solid, texture file, collision is dynamic. There is no scale property. So basically, if the property is the default one, we don't serialize it out. So I just need to put a comma and scale, and let's try 0.5 and see if that fixes things. Let me see. So it looks like there's lots of chat about development, which is really cool. Sorry, I'm not paying attention, guys. I definitely would like to pick your brain on what you're working on here. Maybe after the stream. Mikilo is complaining about slow internet. Um, so Mikilo says he has a question he wants to ask about jumping. In Delver, why was the decision made to have the player jump? Um, I have spoke. I've discussed and argued with lots of folks as to the jumping in Delver. Um, and to be honest, Delver doesn't have any jumping for a couple of reasons. The primary reason is, well, in real life, we don't jump very often. Like, if you are like out hiking with a backpack with lots of gear, you just don't jump. Like, you don't really even run per se. And so that's one reason. Another reason is we actually didn't. So the engine does support jumping, but we actually didn't actually implement it till late in the game, uh, or late in development. And by then we had designed a lot of levels. Um, so if we added jumping now, it would break all of the levels that we've made so far, and I have to go back through and fix them all, which is just a lot more work than it's worth. And the last thing that is a weird issue, but what it is I'm concerned that if I do add jump, all of the YouTube streaming videos will just be people bunny hopping around, and it will look stupid. And which is kind of a weird thing to think about, but as the guy who is in charge of like the visuals and how the game looks, I'm actually really concerned on how the game actually streams on Let's Plays, because of a procedural, the game actually lends itself very well to Let's Plays, and I want the game to look um, as like enticing and as beautiful as possible. And I think if people were just constantly jumping around, I think that would not be a good Let's Play. It just wouldn't look good. But also, I think what the ultimate thing is, people use jump as a way to emote, right? Like if they're excited, they can jump, and they can kind of, it gives them just a little bit more player agency. So I guess kind of as a compromise, instead of adding jumping, that's when we added the breakable entity. So before then, like all the crates and all the wood stuff was like it was, static and you couldn't do anything to it. So we added this breakable stuff so that even though you can't jump, you can still smash stuff, and that is another form of player agency. So that was kind of the compromise we made there. Swellfoam says, "Don't worry, they're talking amongst themselves." Um, cool. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, cool. So yeah, developer talk, which is cool. Yeah, this stream is me, working on Delver, but I'm also just like here to talk about art, like game development art, or level building, or programming, or just game dev in general. I'm pretty open about that. Um, so there we go. So by adding the scale property, we get our small test cube. So now we have um, our normal size test cube, and we have a small test cube. Um, so what we can do is we can actually organize these into a group. So for example, I can select this one, and if I hold Alt when I drag it, so I can select it, hold Alt, and I can drag out a copy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of just kind of aesthetically arrange these around, or with respect to the 0, 0 mark. So I'll do something like this, and I'll try to keep them. Let's try to keep them as much as we can close to being contained within a single tile. I will select them both, and I will actually, real quick, let me do it a different way. Let me add as a prefab versus an entity, because what's interesting is, so add a prefab, set piece, small test cube. So if you look at the properties for a prefab, its only real properties are its name. So if you look over here in IntelliJ, the small test cube properties, it has a mesh that it cares about, it has a texture file that it cares about, a collision box, and a scale, and other properties. But if I go back to here and I right click on this and say to JSON, if you look at the resulting JSON, it's tiny. Prefabs only really care about the name, which is pretty powerful, because that means I can change uh, this entity definition, and the prefabs get that change. So what we'll do is we'll make a group using prefabs. So this is a prefab, and I'm just gonna, like I said earlier, I'm just gonna position these just kind of like this, and then I'm gonna group these prefabs together, and then I'm gonna make a prefab out of the prefab group. So see if I can select it, then to JSON. So let me just copy this. And then I'll close this. And then now, after small test cube, I'm going to make a new prefab. Um, sometimes you get this last position when you group stuff. That's not as important, I don't believe. I usually delete it. Let's do something like small test cubes 2. So this lets me know there's 2 test cubes. And they have X and Y positions, which is pretty cool. Um, let me actually let me undo that last position. That might actually be important. Let me see how it behaves though. So small test cubes 2. Let me save this and load it in the editor and see how it behaves. Okay, so what I'm going to do is right click and I'm going to place a entity, set pieces, and small test cubes 2. Okay, that did not, where did that go? Yeah, it's way over there. Yeah, so sometimes you have to be careful. Uh, this last position can be kind of tricky. So if I delete last position, um, how does it behave? Yeah, sometimes the serialization of groups is a little wonky, so you have to kind of just be patient with it right now. Yeah, so those, so they placed but not quite in the right spot. I think, let me just try to manually figure out where I want them to be. So if I were to place the prefab, I'll just try to place it kind of individually and just steal the position. So small test cube. So I wanted one there and one there. So if I right click to JSON this guy, I can just, oh, why does he not have a position? That's strange. Huh. Okay, so roughly, let's just say it's roughly like halfway, like positive half, positive 0.5, positive 0.5, negative 0.5, negative 0.5. It'll be really precise, but that'll be fine. So the x is, like I said right here, minus 0.5. The y is 0.5. I don't need duplicate uh, uh, x and y's, and then I'll do the same thing here. So I will paste those and make it positive. Make this should be what I want. Let me double check. So I should have roughly the same configuration I had before. Set pieces, small test cubes too. Yep. So they're a little far out. I'll pull them in by a quarter. Let me see what folks are talking about. So yeah, looks like Tony and Soulfoam are still chatting it up, which is really cool. Joshua, to say on what you're saying about streaming being hard, I honestly personally can barely code anymore unless he is streaming, which is interesting. I was telling Tony, one of the techniques I use, it's kind of weird, is called rubber duck. I think it's called rubber duck programming. But the idea is to have a little rubber duck you talk to, and this is for like doing code reviews. But I use it is for streaming. One of my buddies told me about this, so I have, in fact, a little rubber duck that I talk to. So this is right behind my camera. That way I have a face to look at when I talk to the camera. So it helps me remember to look up every once in a while. And that's just one of the techniques that I have found useful for streaming. Okay, so let's get these tweaked. Okay, so that should be what I want. So now if I right click, add prefab, set pieces, small cubes 2. Cool, we have these 2 small cubes. So we're just kind of, right now I'm working on building a library of prefabs. So now small test cube and prefab, set pieces, test cube. So these are kind of the building blocks we have to play with right now. And what's cool is if I do change like the texture or the mesh of this cube, all 3 of these prefabs will update, which is cool. So now I want to start combining these. So to kind of show what I'm talking about. Then again, this is kind of a prototypey dev stream. So I apologize if you're not that's not what you're into, if you're looking here for art or more level designy stuff, that may happen later. But right now, I'm prototyping and exploring and seeing what the engine can handle. Because right now I'm trying to get as much mileage out of the Delver engine as I can without actually having to request code changes. Um, so if I add a prefab, that is a small test cube, um, is this, but I can also do something like, a lot of times we support, in the name, if you put a comma, we support picking from a list. So now, when I play, sometimes it's the small cube, sometimes it's the large cube. That's cool. Um, so then, what I want to do is I want to have it pick between the small cube and the small test cubes too. So now here, sometimes when you play, it's these, and sometimes it's the single, right? So um, that should be pretty easy. It should just be, I could just probably, yeah, so this, so actually it needs to be a prefab. So let me just do a 2JSON on that just to make sure I got that correct. So I'm going to add a prefab. It's going to be a set piece. It's going to be a small test cube, and it's also going to be a small test cubes too, occasionally. So if I 2JSON this or serialize it out, and copy this. Okay, now we can create a new prefab, just making prefabs upon prefabs. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to do that. And we don't care about rotation. That's fine. I can get rid of that. That's cool. And I want to call this, just call it random small test cubes. Getting a little verbose. But you see here in the name, it's a comma separated list of names. So it will choose between either of these prefabs, which is cool. So now when I run delv edit, if I have my little room and I place my prefab, which is random small test cubes, if I hit P, it should sometimes, if it's working correctly, be yep, yeah, I was at the wrong angle. So yeah, so sometimes it's a single cube, sometimes it's two cubes, which is cool. But what I can do, I'm just going to keep stacking these things, and hopefully it starts to make sense. So, what if I wanted to have some behavior like we have a I place a prefab, which is the test cube, and then on top of this test cube, I'm going to place a random small test cube. So let me just. Okay, for some reason it's having trouble grabbing that. So let me. Oh no, can I not? There we go. Okay, Z. Crap. Looks like it's having some issues picking the. There we go. Let's just pull that up. Yeah. Sometimes when you get groups of things, the editor starts misbehaving a little bit. So I've kind of got to just ballpark it. For some reason, toggling the lighting will make it work, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is basically I'm making a test cube with either one or two test cubes on top of it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one and that one. And I'm going to group them, and then I'm going to export this to JSON. I'm sure you're starting to see the pattern here. So copy, close this out. Apparently I have another instance running. Let's close this guy out. Okay, so make a new prefab. Okay, let's clean that up a little bit. So this is going to be um, uh, this is going to be uh, uh, cube pile, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then you can see um, uh, what it is it's just a group of two prefabs. Um, so let's see how this works. Soulfoam is heading out. Has to do some traveling. So yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, Soulfoam, and talking with Tony about development. It's always cool to have folks excited about game development come by and chat. So if I right-click, place prefab, give myself some room here. Place prefab, and then set pieces, and then cube pile. Oh, so it looks like the last position is messing that up. So let me go in and clean up last position. Chad, if you're watching this, that would be something to look into. It's not a high priority bug. I can work around it, but it would be nice to have that fixed. But um, I may file a bug on that and just schedule it for a milestone further out in the future, because it's not a right now for the September update. We're only going to really work on stuff that has been a problem for a while, or it is like game breaking. So I think cube pile is what I want. But it's not the right Z height. Can I tweak that? Actually, let me look at my definition, see what's up. So this one is at Z minus 1. So that's not right. This should actually be Z of 0, and then this one should be at a Z of positive 1. Let's save that. And then do that. Again, just making these little test rooms. And then I'm going to place the prefab, which is set piece, which is a cube pile. Cool. So that drops in there. And now when I hit play, sometimes it's a cube with one cube on top, and sometimes it's a cube with two cubes on top. This just kind of gets randomly chosen on the fly, which I think is cool. So now, I guess the trick, what I'm going to do, see how well the engine handles this, is hopefully I don't break the world. What I'm going to do is delete that and I'm going to try to make one more prefab and see how this works. So prefab, set pieces, test cube. And then, so what I'm basically working towards is making a semi-recursive prefab. So that way it will kind of build out a structure based upon the underlying prefabs. So what I want is a cube with a cube pile on top. So, okay. And then if I add a prefab set pieces cube pile, actually, let me move along the Z first. And then along the X. So now I have this and that. I can group them, and now I can do JSON them. So this is going to be, okay, that looks about right. Let me copy that. Okay. Clean up last position. So the cube pile is z of 1, which is correct. I'm going to call this a this is going to be like our, let's call this a cube tower. And so the bottom one is going to be a test cube, and then the top one is going to be a cube pile or a test cube. So um, this should randomly create little piles of, or little towers of cubes that are different heights. Hopefully this doesn't recurse forever. I mean, there's a 50% chance that the recursion will terminate, so it shouldn't. But I'm curious to see how the engine handles this, because I've never gone this deep down the rabbit hole before, so thanks for bearing with me. So add prefab, set pieces, cube tower. Okay, so if I play, is it always the same height? Sometimes with these, I think if you turn them, it doesn't seem to be generating. Set pieces cube tower. So I think it's correctly. Let me add some ambient light in here because I'm starting to get, this is starting to get hard to see. So lights, ambient. Okay, there we go. Just kind of position it so I can kind of see what we're working on here. Yep, that should be sufficient. So it looks like it's not, well, so it goes to a test cube, but it's not recursing because I didn't define it correctly. So there's nothing up there, right? That's sometimes it goes to, okay, let me kind of see what's going on here. So it's a cube pile or a test cube. And this is a test cube. Oh, so instead of, so I think what I want to recurse, can I do cube tower? Or will this break the world? So that should be the recursive call, I think. Because cube pile should end it. So let's do this. And then drag that up. And then let's add a prefab. Set pieces cube tower. That seems to be 3 tall. That one looks to be the same. Let me just add some ambient lights because this should be recursively creating a little pile of cubes of different heights. So let me see, lights, ambient. I was gonna kind of just put some of these around the scene so we can see what we're doing. Okay. Then also maybe just make myself a little area where I can actually kind of stand and actually see what's going on. So grab this, carve it out, pull the ceiling up, and then pull this up and I can just kind of stand. That looks taller, actually. Is it? Yeah, there we go. So it is, it looks to be recursing. Yeah, so now I have no idea how tall that one is. So if you see what I did, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. So when you place this cube tower prefab, it's always going to place a test cube on the bottom, which is just that cube we built. And then the next one up, the next cube up from that will either be the cube pile, which up here defined is a test cube with the randomized set of small test cubes on top, or it places another cube tower, which loops back on itself. It will place another test cube, and then it will pick whether it places the cube pile or another cube tower on top of itself. So it's this kind of thing that expands and it does it randomly, so which is kind of cool. I think it's really really cool. So yeah, this thing, and it could, I mean, in theory, it could be like infinity height, um, but at any given step, it has a 50% chance of terminating simply because of kind of how the recursion is set up. Because yeah, if it doesn't ever stop, that's bad, and I think it will probably crash the engine. So you have to be careful when defining these recursive prefabs. So we got that. Yeah. So yeah, this is really cool. And you might be asking, okay, so what actually can you do with this? Because right now it's a pretty contrived example. It just builds a tower um, of random height with two little blocks on top. But what's cool with this is I could say, for example, um, like going to the trap example, I can create a 4x4 pattern of crushers, and I could make them do different patterns. And then what I could do is make each one of those patterns a prefab and just place the one trap that will pull from either of the four prefabs to build to have different traps when you run through. But what I could do is also do things like define like a living room set, and then within a living room set, I could have a table set, and within the table set, it might be a table, and on top of the table is a like a place setting set, and within the place setting set, there could be like 7 different place settings, and then whenever you generate a room, there's a chance there might be a table, and on that table there might be any number of place settings. So this is kind of an interesting way of trying to build out procedural content. So trying to think of like within the temple, like maybe I could have like just different interesting structures. Like for example, I can make this into some sort of weird like statue or like a totem thing that just kind of builds up procedurally, which would be really cool. Um, actually, this might actually um, it might be a little bit more interesting if I switch up. Oh yeah, I mean, hopefully I've spoken clear enough. Um, so I guess the ultimate takeaway from this little exercise is that the engine does support it. So I can go ahead and start planning out maybe a few more props and trying to combine props in interesting ways. Uh, uh, Gagey Poo says, had to miss the last stream, glad I could catch this one. Um, hey, yeah, thank you, Gagey Poo, for stopping by. Tony says he has to go head out to 6. Peace out. Um, so right now in Seattle, PAX West is happening, which is really it's a big thing, and it's been fun. I've been running to that. That's why I'm streaming early today, is so I can go to PAX later today. But also at the same time as PAX is SIX, which is the Seattle Independent Expo. So it's for teams like at my scale, where we can exhibit our games, and people from PAX can walk a few blocks and actually play our games. It's a really cool way for rural small indies to get exposure. And it's ran by the Seattle indie community, which is really really cool. So we have community judges that choose that they handle all the submissions, and a lot of these projects come from the Pacific Northwest. We try to prefer Seattle, but also like there's games from Portland, there are games from Vancouver. It's really cool. So yeah, so if you guys happen to be at PAX, I don't, if you're at PAX, why are you watching me? But if you're at PAX, you should go check out Six. It's a cool little expo. White Sarcophagus says, glad to catch the stream. Missed the last one, sadly. Watch it through and love the collapsing tiles. Yeah, thank you, White Sarcophagus, for showing up again. Yeah, so the collapsing tiles was really fun. So I guess I should start working on doing these crusher traps because I've been talking you guys' ear off about it. So let's try. Let's just try starting. Let's just do it. Let's talk, more do. So um, so all this craziness, unfortunately, I'm going to undo all these weird things that I just did. So like these set pieces and stuff, they were just an example just to verify that the engine could handle this stuff. So let's discard those changes. Um, don't need this test level because I didn't really use it. Discard those. Test cube, it's just a cube. I can just also discard that. Great. Let's go into our editor, and I'm going to build a 4x4 trap set piece. So let's do something like this. Make that hollow. Make it big. And then I'm just going to start playing with crusher traps. So for you, those of you who don't know, a crusher trap looks like this. Actually, I need to give us a little bit more room. Entity, generator. Why is it? I gotta like position it like up here now. I guess I'm running out of room with some of this stuff. So there we go. And what this is it is a mover type, like the similar to the. Let me light this up a little bit for you too, so you can actually see what's going on. So this is very similar to the how I built the crumbling floor trap, except that it repeats. Um, it does a screen shake when it hits, and there's actually crushing damage. So when you stand underneath it, you should be hurt. So that could be a quick tweak to what I do on this crusher trap. Is it needs to on this player move. I need to find this is the mover object. So I need to actually change how much damage it does. So let's look at that property. So the property is, wait, let me ungroup it. This property is what is called squish damage. Squish damage. Okay, so I need to add that property to this. So start sound. Let's do squish damage, and I think I'm going to make it 4. So which should be, I don't know, kind of brutal. Let me see, did that reload? No, I can manually change it too. So 4. So basically, this will kill a level 1 player in 2 hits. Dead. See, I could also, I mean, I could make it 7 damage and it would still kill a level 1 player in 2 hits. So that's going to be kind of like a balancing act of finding the right amount there. So okay, let me close that out. Let me reload it just to make sure that stuff came through correctly. And like that. Add my entity, generator, crusher. Come on. So we're getting so many entities now that this menu is getting harder to navigate. Okay, so I hit play. That works, and it should kill me in 2 hits, just to verify. 1, 2. Yep. So that's correct. So it picked up the correct amount of squish damage. So what I want to do now is I want to make some sort of interesting pattern for players to deal with. Because right now it just goes up and down, and that's not terribly interesting. So yeah, let me give myself some more room to work here also. Okay. So I want to have these form some sort of like pattern or sequence, which the player has to kind of identify and then figure out. So I guess really quick, I can just grab this. Um, Let me ungroup it. Let me select both the mover and the shaker. And so these need to be so they need to be centered about, actually, they need to be centered about the 0, 0. So that means, um, like, I need to have them, so one would need to be here, and then, I'll just start building them out from the middle so I don't mess it up. So there's a 2x2 crusher trap, and then I'm going to just keep on positioning these. Okay, there is a 2x4. So if I just select all these movers, actually, let me make sure I'm not messing this up. So let me play. These all go up. They all go down. Not terribly interesting, but we will fix that here in a little bit. So let me select all these. Actually, let me go about this a different way. Let me get just these 4 working in a pattern, and then I can copy and paste them to make the pattern look cool. So, okay, let's start renaming stuff. So let's call this crusher underscore 0. Let's call this crusher underscore 1. Let's call this crusher underscore 2. Let's call this crusher underscore 3. So now that they have IDs, we can trigger them. Let's do something like, so this is still starts immediately. So I don't want them to start immediately. I want them to start on trigger. On trigger. On trigger. On trigger. Actually, I'll leave this one starts immediately so I can see how these things work. So, and also, I'm just going to play around with these movers. Feel free to ask me questions about Delver development, or just game development in general while I work on these. So I want to have a pattern where maybe it goes like up, 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 down, 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 up, 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 down, 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 down. Because that way, like there's a big, like when they're all up, you can see all the way through to the other side, and then when they come down, then you have to kind of wait. So I'm worried that if one goes up while the other one's coming down, you won't ever really see a reason to go to the other side. So I want to give the player enough time to kind of see through and give them a reason to go through this trap. So let me turn it off loop because I want it just to stops. Okay, so I want these just to go up, 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 and then I'm pretty sure that if you trigger it again, it will go down. So basically, a mover will move and stop, and then what I want it to do is trigger the next one in the series. So let me see how this works. Huh. Is that correct? It's calling that on start, but I thought I called it on done. So if I called this crusher underscore 1, when would that get called? Okay. And if I called this crusher underscore 1, and I call this crusher underscore 2, crusher underscore 3. And I'm just kind of basically I'm renaming these so that this one will trigger crusher 1 when it's done. It happens to be the shake, and it also happens to be the next one in the series. And this one triggers when done is crusher underscore 2. This one triggers crusher underscore 3. And this one should trigger crusher underscore 0. This should make it loop. So let's see. Yep. Yep, still got the screen shake. Actually, let me add some again. Let me add lights in here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Torch. Just throw some torches in here. Okay. Like, I realize this is pretty dark. There we go. Add some torches here. Ambient lights. Cool. So now when I play, hopefully you guys can see what's actually going on. So up, up. There we go. Looking good. Does it loop? There we go. Yeah. So this is cool. This is a little bit more what I wanted. So you can see go like this, and then it'll come back down. And the shake. So for some reason the shake on that guy wasn't working. Shake, shake, shake. Nothing. Shake. Not right. Shake, shake, shake. So this guy should trigger crusher underscore 0. And this one is called crusher underscore 4, which doesn't exist. It should be crusher underscore 0 because I'm doing 0-based counting. So that should fix that. Okay. Down, 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 down. Okay, cool. So I have this this pattern going, which I think is would be certainly more interesting than random because the player can kind of grok it and look at it. There's some chat going on. Dr. Epic says, will crushers be part of handmade parts of the levels, or can they be placed randomly like the pressure plate traps? So I'm going to have the crushers be placed in the handmade levels, but I'm going to do it in a semi-procedural way. So you can't always know. You'll have an idea where they'll be, but they won't always be there, and they won't always be the pattern you're expecting. Hopefully, this is a good compromise. I mean, I can try putting them into the room builder. It's just they're so big. I don't know if the room builder would be able to place them because like a single crusher by itself isn't terribly interesting. That's why I'm working to build these kind of like a series of crushers. So now what I can do is okay, so let's make this a 4x4 and just see what the pattern looks like, and then we can make it interesting if it's not. So this is, so grab this, and then along the X, I can make a copy there, make a copy there, make a copy there. Cool. So now we should have this really cool 4x4 block of crushers that I can place in the middle of the hand-built tiles that works okay. So this is, I think this is an okay pattern. You can definitely see what's going on. That was not right. What's going on here? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure why these are misbehaving so bad. Maybe it's because they're being triggered multiple times. So let me real quick, let me delete all the extras and just have the one row drive everything else, if that makes sense. So let's make a copy of all these. Along the X. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into these movers and I'm going to clear out the triggers when done. Oh man, so I still want them to shake though. Hmm. Let's try this and see if this fixes that issue, and then I can worry about other issues. Okay, so correct, correct, correct. Yes, okay. So it just happened to be that because these other movers were also hooked up with the events, that it was causing some weird like race conditions, like maybe some triggers would be triggered multiple times. Um, yeah, so this is definitely closer to what I want to be happening. Um, and these should be okay because these still have the correct names. They still should get triggered by this first row. So let me just duplicate these again. These are the ones that don't have, these are movers without the trigger. So along the X, so we'll have that and that. Okay, so this should be the 4x4 block of crusher traps. So up, 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 and hopefully that should be enough. And these go down, 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 and then if you notice the screen shake entity does attenuate over distance, so that's kind of a nice little effect. That's why it does have a physical presence in the world. Yeah. So the other concern is you potentially could come across it this way, which I think is also okay. Let's just see if this let's use this as a basic um, uh, the basic crusher trap configuration. So I like how this looks. So what I'm going to do is, oh goodness, I'm going to select all of this and put it into one group. So select, select, select. Make sure to get the shakers and all the movers. There we go. It is a little tedious, forgive me. Okay, so there should be 32 objects selected. So I'm going to right click and group them, and then select the group wherever it thinks that needs to be selected. Sometimes going high on the Z helps. Oh, there we go. And then to JSON. Then we should have a big old thing of JSON. So let's do that. Okay, and then I have that. Let me just go down here. I think it was this one. Let me create a new group of entities, and then put our prefab here. Let's call this yeah, so this is a big old chunk of text. So this is going to be, let's call it, just for the time being, let's call it temple sets. And this is crusher trap set 0. So that should allow us to place this entire crusher trap system as a group. So let me add a comma there, otherwise the JSON will break. So save that, and let's close this out and see if we can get it to come back. If I've done everything correct. Entity. Did I not put it in the right space? Temple sets, crusher trap set 0. Yeah, so again this last position is messing us up. So let's close that out, and then I think on the group, I think the last position lives on the group. So let me just scroll down and look for it. It should be towards the end of our changes, I believe. Yeah. So let me just zero this out, and that should fix things. So space there, and then right click, place entity, temple sets, crusher trap set 0. Okay, so that is not right. I might have to play with the last position to make sure that this gets set in the correct position. So let's try that. So last position was, so if I make the last position 0, 0, how does this behave? Because I think these might be offset by the last position. And I think it should behave exactly the same way that it did. Just a theory, but let's actually see if that works. Yep. So what I want to do is I want to move it. I want to move it up 2 and over 2, and that should give us what we want. So let's try that. Let's 2 on the X, 2 on the Y, and see what happens. Temple sets. Okay, so looks like the wrong direction on the X, but the right direction on the Y. So if I go -2, let's see what that looks like. And again, I'm just more worried about where, so I want this when I place it to be in the exact correct position. And simple sets pressure traps at 0. So that's close. I'm off by, I think I need to go instead of up 2, over 2, try 1.5. Is that what it's expecting maybe? Sorry, this is kind of just experimental playing with values. Let's try that. Okay, so place prefab, temple sets, pressure traps at 0. Perfect. Yeah, that did exactly what I want. Is it the right Z position? It is the right Z position. So let me just verify that these trigger correctly, that the screen shakes correctly, all that good jazz. Oh, that's too, yeah. So again, too dark and ceiling too low for us to see what's going on. So let me just quickly fix this for us. Like that, and then create an ambient light. I always like to make it just a little on the yellow side. That's a little, it seems a little, just the lighting looks a little bit more natural and more what you expect to find in Delver. And I'm just gonna kind of just drag a bunch of these out so we can kind of have a nice little lit scene here so you can see what's going on. And, okay, there we go. So it's this whole, there we go. Nice. So that's, so let me just duplicate these to the other side. And then this should kind of, it should be doing what we want it to do. So up, up, up. Cool. Nice. Yep. So I'm excited to get these crusher traps into the actual game. So let me just look at what a use case of this might look like. So let me open up an actual handmade level piece and we'll place it in there and we'll check it out. So generator, undead. Try intersections might be a good one, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, so this one, this try intersection does have a spot where this could live. So let's just place it there and see how things work. So temple sets, pressure trap, and then I have to position it correctly. Oh, there we go. Just kind of nudge it in place. Oh, it's nice that it's actually drawing correctly too. Yeah, so see how try to make sure this is dead center. So the geo doesn't look all crazy. Okay, is that okay on that side? Yep, yep. Okay, so what I would like to do is basically here we'll have these crusher traps, um, um, which is cool. I'd have to I might have to play around with the height of them a little bit, just kind of tweak this. But so we have these kind of things where you can kind of there we go. Oh, yep. I forgot about that. I put a crumbling floor piece there. So yeah, that's working. So what I would like to do now is just have a bunch of these to choose from, so we get some variety, right? So this is one of the patterns that is possible, but also maybe have different patterns that are also interesting that the player can deal with, and just have one prefab that will pick from these patterns. Cryo21 says it would be nice if we could do more complex logic with the trigger system, like logic gates. Um, yeah, that would be crazy because then you could actually do like programming in the editor, like using logic gates to do like. So when he says logic gates, he means like a trigger could potentially make decisions, like a trigger would fire. Excuse me, ugh, coffee. Um, so let's say we have trigger one, trigger two that are set to point at trigger, the and trigger. The and trigger will only evaluate true if both of those triggers are um, uh, firing. So for example, if I have two pressure plates, I could set it such that if you put stuff on both pressure plates, like some door will only open if that happens. That's cool, and that'd be rad, but we don't support that right now. So right now we just have a basic trigger system. So I can make one pressure plate open up a door, but two, I mean the first one would open it. Uh, sorry, Tice underscore NL says it's looking really good. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate the kind words. Um, Crowd 21 says, I like how it comes together. The crushers are looking awesome in the scene. Yeah, I think it does look. They do look good. Again, that's why I'm really uh, I'm pretty adamant about trying to have a fairly minimal palette. Like I think these are only like maybe 8 different colors, but that way when they're used on all the different assets, they kind of fit together really nice and well. They're kind of thoughtfully chosen. Um, Yeah, and so since I use the same palette on both and kind of a similar style, I think they fit together really well. I think these will add a nice bit of variety where we have these kind of trap focused rooms rather than these enemy mob focused rooms. And yeah, I am actually grokking the pattern okay too, so I think it will work. The thing I'm worried about is there's space above, which isn't great. What I can do is I can change the mesh to actually be taller, and I think that would be okay. Let's just do that right now. Um, let's just do it. Okay, so my idea for these crusher prefabs is cool. I have that one saved. I'm just going to leave it as is for the time being. Let's open up Blender. I don't need that, but what I do want to do is look at my crusher. So maybe ideally, this crusher model should be um, 3 Delver units tall. So I can just do that real quick and dirty, but it should look okay. If you notice, the top of this is I haven't actually done anything to it, so it is still just the basic stone texture. But I think I can totally take advantage of that by just using that around this middle part to extend out the crusher. So I'll just go into edit mode, and then I will grab Oh, these are, okay, so what I'm going to have to do, this is just a single face, but I can cut it. I'll split it right there. And then I'm going to grab this top half, and I'm going to hit Y to separate it. So now, still the same mesh. These just are no longer continuous. I'm going to move it along the Z-axis by 1, and then I'm going to grab this piece. Let me I'm gonna actually, I don't. I might just duplicate the top as a crusher too, so that way we can actually use the crushers. So you can have the crushers come up, or come from the top down. But if we're clever, we could also use them from the bottom up without much work. So I will take this top face off, um, uh, and I will just I'll grab this bottom one, duplicate it, uh, and put it to the top, and then I will, yeah, I'll flip it around. So now we have a crusher thing on both top and bottom. What I want to do is I want to move the cursor to the selection there. I'm going to grab this face. I'm going to rotate this face around the new cursor. So rotate X 90. That snaps into position very nicely. And then I can just duplicate it, move it along the Y 1 unit. I can flip the normal direction so it faces out. Select both of these, duplicate them, rotate them on the Z 180. Or sorry, let me rotate Z 180. No, 90, Joshua, math. Okay, so now these are looking good. I can select everything. W, remove doubles. So I removed 20 extra vertices, and now like the vertexes are all like it's all one solid mesh and not separate parts. So the lighting should be okay. And I think all I should have to do is I have to do a few things, I guess. So I have to re-export the mesh, and then I have to update the collision volumes. But I think this should be okay. I think it'll look good. And that was a nice quick fix. And now I'm actually using all this texture, which also makes me happy. So file, export, OBJ. This is oh yeah, it's in the temple crusher obj, selection only. Don't want to write materials. I do want to triangulate faces. Let's export this. And let's just preview what this looks like. I think the collision will be messed up, but the visuals should look good. Let me look at chat real quick. Sorry, Too Crazy says, will the ending ever get updated so it feels more rewarding to beat the game? Um, can you go into more depth about that? Right now, the ending, I mean, it's not super great. The ending right now is you have to escape back out. I would like to do more with that, but I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. JSI 7IV says, dude, what's with the super cool ice level? It looks so awesome. I don't want to leave it. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Uh, right now, not a lot, but I would like to do more stuff with the ice level in the future. And I think when I do, I think I won't tell anybody and I'll leave it a secret. Simple sets, crusher set 0. Okay. That's looking better. Let me see. Let's see how it works. I started on the exact wrong side. Okay, so I think this is good. I mean, I could move them further up on the Z-axis. I don't know if it's necessary though. I kind of like the fact that it's not super tall. I might just look at this for a little bit and just kind of see what's going on. So yeah, there we go. Let me actually look from the side. I'm just trying to. I'm just going to take a moment and just kind of just watch it and just kind of gather my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys think about how the crushers are looking, like speed, maybe cool patterns. Are they going high enough on the z-axis? That's the thing I'm kind of musing about right now. Um, boom, boom, boom. I think the cadence is okay. I mean, this could add some interesting pressure too, like if you're running from enemies and you come up here and you could lure the enemies underneath the movers. That would be handy. But also like right now, like I would be stuck, right? I have to deal with the enemies in the short term until I can actually sneak back out through. So I think this would be cool. I'm liking the idea of these trap rooms. I also want to have a chance that there's no trap, and maybe a chance that there's some sort of decorative object, like maybe a statue or some sort of shrine or something here instead of a trap. So it would be like a hierarchical thing, like where you have this 4x4 set piece, and um, the set piece could be nothing. It could be like a shrine. It could be a trap, or it might be something else. And if it chooses trap, then it chooses from a set of traps. Or if it chooses shrine, maybe it chooses from a set of shrines. So you kind of get this kind of cool behavior where, like coming into this, you might not always know what's going to be here. And I think this system would be flexible and it could be used in other places. And I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, so I'm liking these guys. I need to update their. Let me just um, that's cool. Let me update their the volume or the collision boxes. So actually, let me just do a new level file. Nope. 17 with 17. And if I just place one of these, entity generator temple crusher. So you can see that this was, let me ungroup it. It was designed for a crusher that is 2 in height, and this is now 3. But you see this is 1.6406, so it doesn't go all the way up. So if it goes up, say, actually, let me undo that. So I'm actually more worried about, let me delete that. I'm more worried about, let's worry about the collision box first. So entity generator, crusher trap, ungroup. So the collision box is down here in physics. It's 1.875. Um, why it's 1.875? What it is if you notice, in Blender, these are exactly 1 by 1 units and then 3 units tall. But if you notice in Delver, when I snap them in a grid and move them, I scaled them down just a tiny bit, such that there is a 2 pixel gap in between them, or a 1 pixel gap at normal resolution. So they are a kind of awkward scale. So basically, their scale is it's somewhere around here. Uh, yeah, it's 0.9375, which I think is it's like 30 over 32. Let me run the calculator. So 30 over 32. So it's 9375, and you multiply that by 2. So 1875 is the actual height. So if I do 30 over 32 times 3, because it's a 3 tall column, it's 28125. So I can Control C or 2, and then go into this collision and paste. 2, 8. There should be a decimal point there. 125. Cool. So let's just see how that looks. Because I'll just figure out the correct collision box here, and then I'll just edit the text of the prefabs in the editor. Okay, and that is the correct collision box, so I'm going to go with that. Let me look at chat again. Y2 Cruiser says the screen is just a gray screenshot, as well as it can be a screenshot of sorts. Maybe, like I know on the death screen we have a small scene that we show, so maybe the ending, if you win the game, maybe we'll show a small scene there too. I'm not sure. I'd like to do something more than just a gray screen. Sutin 22 says, does screen shake only happen in a certain range? It would be not if you it would be weird if you haven't seen it yet. And the answer is yes. It does attenuate over distance, and that is based on, I believe. So yeah, there's a triggered shake object I've hidden. I've hidden the shake object inside the crusher object, and um, the shake amount is how much it actually moves the camera, and the shake range is that distance. And there's some sort of, I think it's either, I don't think it's linear, it might be geometric, but there's some sort of way of dampening it the further you are away from it. Okay, so I've decided that the collision on the crusher needs to be updated to 28125. So let me just go ahead and do that real quick. Let me just go through. So I need to look for crusher.obj, and then the collision is. Let me just do edit, replace. Sorry, I'm still getting used to IntelliJ. Find and replace. There we go. So I want to replace 1.875 with 28125. So replace, replace. Yeah, these all should be um, the movers down here. I think it's a specific enough number. I don't think it would pop up anywhere else. So let me save that. Let me give it a shot. And I think I'm actually, I started the stream a little late, but I think I want to end in about 5 minutes at 11:15 because I generally keep these streams to about 2 hours in length, mostly because I don't want to bore you guys to death. And I think 2 hours is an okay watchable time, and I can actually get stuff done in that amount of time. So if you have any questions or comments, concerns, please let me know. Um, and I'm just going to keep working. Crusher trap. So if I ungroup this guy, yep, that's correct. And actually, let me, I could do something. Sorry, the coffee's getting to me. I'm getting fidgety. Do this. I can place my prefab, my temple set piece, crusher trap set 0, which is cool. I can place a light ambient, make it like this. Let's make a bunch of, let's make some copies along the Y. X, let's make some copies over here. And what I want to do, I want to try my little idea of making these vertical also. So I'm going to put some lights up here so we can actually see what we're doing. So that should be good, except for you can't really see in the middle there. So let's make some more over here. There we go. Yep. Oh yeah, that's another thing too. So the meshes are lit according to basically by their origin. So you can get some weird mesh lighting if lights aren't anywhere near the origin. But I'm just want to test out, like, I should have something like this. Yep, yep, yep. And it does squish me. Cool. So yeah, so I can get use out of the crushers both from the ceiling coming down and from the floor coming up, which could actually, this be a really easy way of adding variety just by varying the Z height of the traps. And then I think I'm pretty happy with where they're at. So I think we're at a good place to end the stream. I think off stream, I'll probably work on some more trap patterns because that would be, it'd be fun to do. So maybe, I don't know, just some kind of little series and moving around and that you can kind of observe and try to figure out. So let me look at my questions. Wow, W Wow Freak says IntelliJ is awesome. Yeah, I'm liking it so far. We recently moved to it, maybe a month ago. Before that, if you watch my older streams, We were using Eclipse, which is fine. I've used Eclipse for years for various types of projects, but IntelliJ is also fine since I primarily work on content, not programming. I am a software engineer by trade, but as long as I can get my environment set up and build and run the project, I'm pretty happy. Um, W. Wow says he always misses the streams. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I do Sundays at noon because it's good for me, and it's a good time for me to work. And my wife and I have set aside Sundays. Um, Occasionally, I do bonus streams in the evening. So sometimes, if you're on a different point on the globe than I am, those work out better. But yeah, I feel bad for the the Asian countries in Australia and New Zealand, of course. Sorry, Chris. Because like we're like totally opposite, or pretty darn close to being opposite of each other. So it's very hard for those folks to catch my streams, which is why I do archive them. So these streams do get archived on YouTube, and you might be watching on YouTube right now. Um, so yeah, I think White Sarcophagus is heading off. Thanks for the streaming. Yeah, I'm gonna head off too. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate all of you guys stopping by, asking questions, talking about game development. Uh, just knowing the fact that you guys are going to be here is really motivating, and I love talking to my community. You guys support me, and that means the world. I really enjoy what I do, and hopefully you enjoy it too. I will keep making Delver as the best game that I can. I appreciate your input, even if I don't always make the changes you suggest. I do listen, even if I forget to say it sometimes. You guys are the best fans, and thank you for everything. I will see you guys next Sunday. Take care.